Joining us live now is the Assistant Federal Secretary of the Independent Education Union, Brad Hayes. Brad, good morning to you. You going to be there today by any chance or have a say?
Well, thanks, Peter. The good news out of today's roundtable is that actual teachers and practitioners, classroom teachers and principals will be attending, and you mentioned that in your intro, which is a very pleasing sign. So there'll be representatives from our union and also the Australian Education Union. And that's a really good start. And the Minister, Jason Clare, should be commended on that, because really for the last decade, the actual practitioners have been excluded from those discussions, and which goes against common sense. You want the people in the room that are actually in the classrooms to share their solutions and their experiences. So it's a good start by the federal government, but obviously a lot of issues to tackle today.
Well, I'm sure too that governments don't want any more strikes. So if you've got a say, then that would be the best way to ease those concerns.
Yeah, of course. And remember also the federal government is of course convening these discussions, but the federal government does not employ any teachers. Clearly the state governments do, and my sector, the independent education sector, has hundreds of individual employers, faith-based schools, community-based schools, community kindergartens and so on. So it's absolutely essential that those employers are in the room, because clearly working conditions and wages are a key factor that have led to and contributed to the shortfall of staffing.
Okay, well, you talked about it just there. So how do you tackle teacher shortages across Australia? Is there 1, 2 or even 3 points that in your view will do that?
It's a long list, but there's one absolutely at the top of that list. If you talk to any teacher or even any family member of any teacher, I'm sure there's some watching this morning, they'll tell you that the number one issue that is leading to burnout and teachers leaving the profession is unsustainable workloads. It's the never-ending red tape. It's the never-ending bureaucratic intrusions into the classroom, an obsession with data and paperwork. That's what's really, sucking the life out of the teaching profession. It's driving teachers away from the job they love. It's dragging them out of the classroom where they want to be. They want more time to spend with their students. Yeah, I'd say so. Clearly wages is part of the puzzle, and that needs to be resolved. But the unsustainable workload crisis has been building for years. Pay, definitely part of the discussion that has to happen today, and it's good to hear that all options are on the table. Some of the announcements, though, are probably going down the path of failed experiments in the past when teachers were not involved in those discussions. So in the past, we've had these small number and a very small number of additional paid positions for expert teachers or highly accomplished teachers or lead teachers. There's a model in place in schools now. It's been in for the last 10 years. Less than 1% of teachers will ever access that. It's part of the discussion, but it's clearly not a major incentive for the majority of teachers. And at a time, as you mentioned, where we've got major employers, particularly in New South Wales, offering wage increases of around 2%, when inflation's at 6%, you're not going to attract people into the profession and you're going to lose more teachers.
Okay, what about this pitch yesterday from the New South Wales Education Minister, Sarah Mitchell? She wants teachers in an outstanding category to earn upwards of 130 grand a year. What do you think of that?
Well, the rates of pay clearly, as I said, are part of the discussion today, and that they are an important part of those considerations. Look, generally in terms of teacher wages, the starting rate is reasonable across the country. Of course, there's differences between jurisdictions and between employers.
So about 70 grand?
But the starting rate, it's about mid-70s up to $80,000 for a starting teacher. The problem we have is it's a very limited career progression after that. So in the OECD, the average is around another 80% of salary growth during your teaching career. In Australia, it's half that, it's 40%. So it's a very limited progression. Most teachers get there after around 9 years of teaching service. They've hit the top of the scale. One outcome of that, of course, is you then lose some of your really good classroom teachers who go into administration or administrative roles in the school, heads of department, principals and assistant principals, because that's the only way they can continue to build their career incentives in terms of financial rewards. So they obviously need to look at all options, but it's essential that teachers are involved in those discussions, because we've had those models in the past. The model that's currently in schools, the highly accomplished and lead teacher model, very few, if any, teachers ever apply for it, because the process of application just adds to their workload demands, which adds to the burnout of teachers. It's this cycle that's been going on now for years.
And just finally here, I mean, bonuses, this all forms part of the conversation too, but so much talk about migration at the moment, and this is all going to be identified at the Job Summit too in a couple of weeks' time to increase migration upwards of 160,000 to maybe over 200,000. But There is a push too to get more teachers from overseas into Australian schools. Would you be a part of that push?
Well, it's been happening for years. I mean, we've always had many teachers emigrating to Australia and working in our schools. I don't think, though, it's part of the broad solution to this issue at the moment.
Right.
There's a teacher shortage across the world. It's not just Australia. It is absolutely across the world. And for us to then be for one of the key solutions for Australia to take teachers out of other countries that are experiencing their own shortages, it seems a very short-sighted approach. Look, what we need to do is attract more teachers into the profession and keep them there. And one of our members was saying to me just yesterday from one of our Catholic schools that gone are the days when you would have the grandparent, the parent and the child out of the teaching profession. Very few teachers, if any, right now would be prepared to recommend this job to their children in terms of a potential career, and their kids see the hours that their teachers are undertaking and the lack of respect for the teaching profession. Not exactly something that people are lining up to join that profession.
All right, Brad Hayes, did you want to make a final point there, just quickly?
No, look, I think it's been a long time coming. I just wanted to mention, Peter, this is not an overnight sensation. This has been building now for many years, and part of the solution is to rebuild the status of the profession. So wages is part of it, workload is part of it, obviously, but as a community, we have an obligation to make sure we fully value and respect teachers and give them the professional autonomy and judgment they deserve in the classroom.
But surely the problem's so big that it can't be solved in one meeting, right? But it's a step in the right direction.
Absolutely. As I said, we commend the federal government for taking this step.
Yeah, good one. Brad Hayes, thanks for your time this morning. We'll talk to you soon.